Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Super Game Brothers podcast. This is our weekly board game and video game podcast. It's a family-friendly podcast, and we just have a good time chatting about the board game and video game industries and what we've been playing for the last week. My name is David, and I'm joined, as always, by my brother Devin. Devin, how are you on this Wednesday evening?
I am doing fantastic.
Nice. You've been watching a lot of basketball, I hear.
Oh my gosh, yes. There's like 2 NBA Finals games every day of the week, pretty much. And I enjoy it. You can tell all the teams are trying extremely hard compared to normal season.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Father-son bonding time.
There you go. Nice. Yeah, that is a fun time, and I do think they space them like that on purpose so that there's 2 games basically every day for the entire month. And I think the finals are probably like early June usually, so just a few more weeks of basketball. That's fun. I saw that the Nuggets won last night. So are they up 3-2, or did they just tie it 2-2?
They are up. They're up. Wow. It will go back to Minnesota, and then we'll see what happens. I don't know what happened to the Timberwolves. They had them exactly where they needed them.
Yeah, they were up 2-0, right, and then lost 3 straight games.
Yeah, and they were up 2-0 by beating the Nuggets at home both times.
Right. Yeah, because Nuggets had home court advantage. Yeah, crazy. Yeah, I saw some clips really of Jokic out there. He's a crazy human. So good at basketball.
That man is a magician.
I follow this one account, and he just like talks about basketball rules and like what's a travel and what isn't, and just like basketball IQ on Twitter. I can't remember his name. Maybe B-Ball Breakdown or something. Follow him. He does a really good job. And he was posting all these videos about how Jokic is really smart with what he does when they have a lead and ways to waste the clock. So like after the other team scores, he'll accidentally fumble the ball instead of like giving it to accidentally in quotes, fumble the ball instead of giving it to the ref. And then he'll have his teammate like roll it onto the court, so he hasn't touched it yet. So the game clock's still rolling, but the shot clock hasn't started yet. And so they're getting like a difference of like, and I think they said that in the plays he was able to do that, he was able to waste like a whole minute of clock time or something. So he's just like a super smart player out there. He knows how to read the floor and play the referees and the kind of the mental IQ game really well. Even though he doesn't look like the most athletic fella out there, he's sure dang good.
Yeah, he's got the softest touch. It's I don't even know how to explain it, but it's magnificent.
It really is. There's a lot of memes online right now of like your team played 23 and a half seconds of excellent defense, then Jokic in the last half second of the shot clock, and it's like him bending like some really weird way and like hucking the ball, and then it goes in for some reason. And yeah, it doesn't matter. He can. Yeah, I don't know. He just has such a soft touch, like you said. He can shoot from anywhere. He's fun to watch.
Yes.
And kind of the other funny thing about Jokic is just how much he doesn't hate basketball, but like how much he hates basketball. Like I think last season, was it last year they won the whole thing? Either last year or the year before. They were like asking him some questions about like what he was going to do in the offseason. He's like, I just want to go home and like hang out with my horses. And every time like anyone asks him a serious question about basketball, he's like, I don't want to be here. This is my stupid, boring job. He's kind of
the best there is, pretty much, but I don't need to be here.
Yeah, he's a funny guy. Where's he from? I don't even remember where he's from. Russia?
No idea.
I don't think it's Russia, but I think it's a Eastern European country, maybe. Who knows? Cool. Well, yeah, basketball's a good time. I wish I'd been watching basketball. I haven't been doing too much. Played some board games last week. Played some video games last week. They were also fun. And other than that, just been working on a lot of stuff for our channels and having lots of computer issues. I have been so close to putting my foot through that laptop like 10 times and saying all the curse words.
You should just do it.
Yeah, if it was still like in the warranty period or something where they would give me my money back if it accidentally broke on accident, then I totally would. But yeah, I don't know. I need to like, those dumb YouTubers that are like, I'm going to turn a penny into $1 million house. And they like go around exchanging. Will you give me a pen for this penny? I feel like I should do that with that laptop until I have like a wonderful PC. Might take me a month of wandering the streets.
Yeah.
But that might be the only way I can get one because I'm not flush with cash, I'm not just getting run down.
Maybe someone will give you their old car that they just don't have the energy to fix.
Then,
you know what I mean?
But then what if I don't know how to fix it?
Well, you just sell it. They just want the garage space, but it's worth more than the laptop, and then you just get it out.
This might be the play. Maybe, I shouldn't be a data analyst. We shouldn't be doing podcasts. We should just be, I don't even know what that game was called. In high school, everyone was like, hey, you got an hour. See what you can turn this thing into. Exchange-a-thon. I don't know what it's called.
Gary V says we should
flip stuff.
What is it?
Yeah, the yard sales. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He's a pretty sharp dude. Pretty funny.
He is. He's very positive, and I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I do too. I don't know if I have that kind of negotiating grind because you basically you have to know a ton about a ton of different categories like Pokemon cards and old consoles and clothing and watches and whatever else you're going to find. Know which ones are good. And then you almost need to like kind of lie to the person and sneak your way like, hey, I'll give you $10 for this, Kind of a weird feeling, but hopefully that
pretend like no one else is gonna want it.
Yeah,
just like I'll just take this off your hands for $10.
Yeah. So I guess the onus is kind of on the person running the garage sale or whatever to make sure they know what they have. But yeah, I've always thought that was a little sketchy. But you know what? You got to get that bag one way or another. So. That's not the worst way in the world.
That bag.
That big bag of used goods at the yard sale. Or savers. I've heard that like secondhand shops have good stuff too. Actually,
what the heck is savers?
It's like in Utah we have the DI. Kind of like that. It's like a secondhand thrift store. What are some other ones? I feel like there are other ones, but savers and the DI are the two that I mostly know about, but I think there are others. There's this guy in my board game group. And he said he gets a lot of his board games there. And I'm like, man, I must be going to the wrong thrift stores because every time I go, it's like, here's a book and all the pages are missing. It's just the covers.
Well, that's what I was going to say is you're not getting a full game in there.
Yeah, I feel like you'd be missing like half the pieces.
You're getting a mixture of 3 games in there.
Which might be, that might be fun. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. We need to figure something out though. Make $1 million flipping these laptops or buying these 3-in-1 board games. That'd be nice. Then I could afford the new computer. That would be a good thing. Cool. Other than that, in the Bailey household, my 7-year-old started baseball. That's been pretty fun. I never played baseball growing up, but I can throw a ball and catch one. The hitting part, never been good at that with the bat, but I'm good with the mitt and the ball. Yeah, he had his first game yesterday. Watching a bunch of 6- and 7-year-olds try to play baseball was very comical.
I imagine.
It's a lot. He did basketball just ended like last week. Basketball's a lot more straightforward of a sport, right? It's, hey, you and your 4 friends try to throw this big ball through this big hoop, and you have to dribble. Those are like the only rules they need to know. Yeah, in baseball, it's like, okay, you got to get 3 outs, and what's an out, and what's a ball, and what's a strike. And if I hit the ball, where do I run, and where do I have to stand? I'm supposed to stand here when. And they had my son like playing shortstop, and he was like, when the game started, he was standing facing the back fence. So like, nobody knew what they were doing. The other team would hit the ball, and everyone would just stand there, like, were we supposed to do something? And yeah, it was great. It was pretty funny. But
that's honestly amazing.
Yeah, it was like the bench warmers, Bad News Bears, whatever you want to compare it to. It was all those things. It's also machine pitch. So they have one of those like spinning machines that they
wow.
they drop the ball in and it pitches it. It's not incredibly fast, but it's quite a bit faster than like a little lob from the coach or something.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the kids were struggling with hitting the ball. But our son did hit the ball and got on base. And by him getting on base, somebody scored. So he scored and they got on base, but they lost 3-15. So, I don't know that was much of a consolation there, but yeah, kid sports, they're funny. Good time. Mostly a little embarrassing for your, trying not to have secondhand embarrassment, like, ooh, I should have taught my son baseball better. But
yeah.
But he was loving life, like playing in the dirt and, running around. So I guess that's all that matters.
My favorite thing about kids sports is we all sit there and like pretend like we could do so much better than all of them out there. Why aren't they just doing this and this and this? Like, as if we would.
Yep, exactly. Why aren't they hitting home runs and throwing 90-mile-per-hour fastballs? So we'll see how baseball season goes, but pretty fun.
That's exciting.
Yeah, it's been good. Yeah, other than that, not much new over here. Yeah, this is our weekly video game and board game podcast. We really like talking about games, so that's what we do here. We're still trying to nail down all of the kind of the categories of the show, or segments, I guess is the right word, and exactly what we want to focus on, because there's a lot of different directions you can take a podcast like this, and I feel like our structure currently might be a little too broad in that I'm trying to have us cover too much. Not sure. So write some comments in. Let us know. Do you want the show to be more focused on like any specific topic, or do you want it to be longer? Do you want to be shorter? Because it could definitely be like, I could make it 5 times as long with the amount of stuff. Like,
please no.
I don't think that's a good idea, but there's just so much. I'm like, okay, this isn't worthy. I have to cut this and cut this. And at the end of the day, I wanted it to be a video game and board game show, but I didn't want it to be like okay, let's get like super nitty gritty in the news and talk about, all the news things all the time. So it's a hard balance, but anyways, it's a fun show. This is episode number 7. I have a blast recording it. I have a little bit less of a blast prepping it, and a little bit less of a blast editing it. But I do like hitting publish. That's a fun moment too. Like it's up on YouTube. We got the cool thumbnail on there, and Patreon people are seeing it on Fridays. YouTube seeing it on Mondays. That's a good feeling once it's out there, and everyone can listen to me ramble for a while. So yeah. Anyway, so we appreciate you being here with us. Make sure you check out the other stuff we have on the Super Game Brothers YouTube channel and Instagram and TikTok. And if you would like more stuff, you can also follow us totally for free on Patreon. We post some extra videos over there. And then we have some other perks if you really wanted to support us in our independent endeavor here. We have a bunch of paid perks over there as well. So check us out on Patreon. You can get even more exclusive shows, get the show early, get your name in the credits if you want me to put your name big on the screen during the episode. Yeah, lots of fun stuff over there. All right. Well, like I mentioned earlier, it's a little hard to organize a show like this. So for like the 5th week in a row, new segment time. And
oh, yeah.
Yeah. And this segment, I wanted to do this because I feel like we talk about what we've been playing, which is fun because then it's usually like back and forth. We got some cool stuff to talk about. And then we talk about the news, and the news is like an hour long. And so I wanted to break it up a little bit. So I'm going to put like a mini news up front. I'm calling it the News Mini Nuke. You just played Fallout. I think that's a good name. So the News Mini Nuke is here up front. It's just like kind of smaller stuff like, hey, this game was announced. That's cool. Hey, this game was announced. That's cool. Here's the free games on subscription services for the week. Here's, what else do I have here? The new games that came out this week and if they look exciting or not. So they're just like the boom, 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 small things. Then we'll talk about what we've been playing, and then we'll get into like the more meaty news where we might have a little bit longer of a discussion, or it's a longer news item or something that I don't know, some people might call more boring. I think it's kind of fun to see the inside baseball stuff, but like we'll have some talk about earnings calls with stockholders. And that would be more of the main news segment, not the news mini nuke. So anyway, so we're going to start with the news mini nuke today. And for today, we got 5 game announcements. I'm going to plow through them pretty quick. The first one, probably the biggest one of the week, and that is Ubisoft has announced Assassin's Creed Shadows. It is the newest Assassin's Creed game. I think it had a code name called Project Red or something. So it's been rumored for a while that it was going to be set in Japan and involve ninjas or something like that. Looks pretty cool. The trailer is very pretty. There's no gameplay in the trailer, I don't believe, but the cinematic trailer is very pretty. Do wish there was some gameplay, but here is the quote that they put on the trailer. Quote, "Live the intertwined stories of Naoe, an adept shinobi assassin from Iga province, and Yasuke, the powerful African samurai of historical legend. Against the backdrop of the turbulent late Sengoku period, this remarkable duo will discover their common destiny as they usher in a new era for Japan." End quote. Trailer's really cool. You get to play as 2 different characters, which I thought was pretty cool for this game. Assassin's Creed's done that before, where you got to choose like the brother or the sister in like the Greek one, I think. But I don't believe they were especially different, other than being the other gender. I don't believe they were much different. But these 2 look very different. I think her name is Naoe. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. She comes from like a tiny town they call the Iga province, and she's a shinobi, so kind of like the sneaky ninja with the ninja stars and the slashy sword, trying to hide in the shadows. And then the other main character, like I said, is a powerful African samurai, and he has like a big samurai like armor on. And in the one part in the trailer, he has this huge like samurai hammer thing. So it looks like, at least, they would play very differently. And there were a few extra details in the blog post that said that you can choose which character you want to play for the majority of missions, but then there are some that are character specific. So kind of hop back and forth. Anyways, I thought that looked cool. Have you played Assassin's Creed in a while, Devin? I haven't played one for probably like 8 years.
Not for a long time. I did play Assassin's Creed Black Flag, but I hardly remember it. I also watched the trailer for this. I felt like I recognized a face or 2 in there. Are games really pushing real actors as their character models in games? I feel like I see that a lot now.
Yeah, that does happen more and more as like the motion capture actor. Yeah. Like in Days Gone came out. Sony made that a few years ago. That was what's his name? Sam Witwerth, I think. I think that's who that was. Yeah, so they definitely do that occasionally. I didn't recognize any, but you could totally be right. I'm not sure. All right, so that's Assassin's Creed Shadows. Looks pretty cool. It's out November 15th, and it's only current gen, so PC, PS5, Xbox Series S and X. Next one, or the next 4, are all board games that were announced. So I thought that was kind of cool. This one is Terraria, the co-op board game, is coming to Kickstarter on May 28th. I'm not a huge Terraria Minecraft fan, but I know that there's a big following for both of those games. Obviously Minecraft a lot bigger, but Terraria I feel like was pretty big as well. This one, like I said, is a co-op game, and you lay out, I think you shuffle and then lay out cards to kind of make the map so that the map's different every time, much like it would be in those video games. And then you work together, gather stuff, fight enemies. The page said that there are over 30 different enemy types, and each session ends with one of 6 different boss fights. So look forward to that. If you like Terraria, it will be on Kickstarter on May 28th. A few more board games. Very popular board game. I've never played it, but it's kind of like an open world Western game where you can kind of do whatever you want. You can be a good guy. You can be an outlaw. It was called Western Legends. It came out a few years ago. And Western Legends Stories was just announced. And it is a 6-part story-based campaign game based kind of on Western Legends. And it will also be coming to crowdfunding in the third quarter and then releasing next year. So if you like Western Legends, I know a lot of people say that it's basically, obviously, a more pared down version, but kind of like Red Dead Redemption 2 in a board game where you get to choose what you want to do. Next one, movie I really liked growing up, even though the first 10 minutes it used to scare me when I was really little. The board game based on Jim Henson's hard to say. Jim Henson's Labyrinth came out, I think, 38 years ago. So it's having a 40th anniversary pretty soon. And so they're re-releasing the board game that I think came out on the 30th anniversary of the movie. So the board game's been out for a while, but it's being reprinted. It will be coming to GameFound this summer. It has some cool character statues from the game. Like the main character, I can't remember her name, and then some of the crazy creatures in that world.
It looks like all the collectibles were gray. Does that mean you're supposed to paint them?
Yeah, a lot of companies make their miniatures a solid color, either gray or red or something, so that you can paint them if you want.
Okay.
And a lot of people do. I am nowhere near artistic enough, so I like it when things come pre-painted, but people that are really good don't want them pre-painted because they can paint it way better than like a pre-painted machine could. So yeah, there's probably a little tension there on yeah, we would love it pre-painted, and other people are like, no, we wouldn't. So I guess with it being gray, that side won. So yeah, if you like Labyrinth, check that out. And then last one, very popular game. Not quite as popular, but I think almost as popular as the other Dune game, Dune Imperium. Dune War for Arrakis came out, I think, just either earlier this year or late last year is when it delivered to their crowdfunding backers. And it's a big board game. It's a long one where usually you play 2 players, one side against the other, and it's kind of like a war game. Not exactly, but basically you roll a lot of dice, you fight each other's pieces, and you can do all these things on kind of the sands of Arrakis to try and win this war. It's getting a reprint this year. They said it will be on GameFound sometime later this year, and it will also have a new expansion called Desert War. I think one of the reasons this game's been so loved is it was made by 2 designers, or designed, I guess, by 2 designers, and those 2 designers designed another game like a decade ago based on The Lord of the Rings called War of the Ring, and it's pretty well regarded as one of the very best head-to-head war games ever. On BGG, it is rated number 1 in the war gaming category. I've wanted it for a long time. Me and my wife really love Lord of the Rings, but it's and you can get it for $80 or something. It's not terribly expensive, but I think it runs 4 to 6 hours. So it's a time investment. You play as either Sauron's side or as the good side, and the good guys can either win by defeating Sauron's forces or by sneaking the ring to Mount Doom, and the bad guys generally win by taking over a bunch of the map or by corrupting Frodo. And so you're fighting a whole bunch, but then there's this, obviously, the ring bearer portion of it too. So I'm guessing that War for Arrakis is pretty similar with the two of the same designers. Anyway, so those are some new game announcements. This next segment, I didn't mean for it to be this long, but I don't make the news. It's just here. This is the games that are free to different subscription services this week/month. So these are the new ones that we haven't already talked about. Coming to PlayStation Plus Extra, I believe, on Tuesday. So depending on when you're listening to this, I think it's on Tuesday. Are 10 games. They are Red Dead Redemption 2, which we just talked about. Excellent game if you haven't played that. Deceive Inc., The Sims 4, City Living, Crime Boss, Rockay City, The Settlers, New Allies, Stranded, Alien Dawn, Cat Quest, and Cat Quest 2, the Lego Movie 2 video game, and the original Watch Dogs. If you have Premium, PlayStation Plus Premium, there's 3 PlayStation 1 classics coming to PlayStation 5 this month. 2 of them I hadn't even heard of. 2 Extreme and G Police. Have you ever heard of those, Devin?
No, I haven't heard of most of these.
Yeah. And then the third one is Worms Pinball. I've heard of Worms and I've heard of Pinball, but I've never played Worms Pinball. So yeah, those are the 13 games coming to PlayStation Plus Extra and Premium. So watch out for those. I think Red Dead Redemption 2 is definitely the headliner of all of those. But Cat Quest and Cat Quest 2 are kind of fun little games that I played quite a bit of together with my 6-year-old at the time, and they're a good enough time. And if you like Worms and Pinball, check that one out. Also, if you have PlayStation Plus Premium, there's a new game trial. You can play the first 2 hours of The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered. That's just enough time for you to get to the big, spoilery twist in the game, probably, and then either decide if you love it or hate it. And that's all I'm gonna say, other than the fact that I think that's one of the best games ever made. So I obviously don't hate it. Bunch of games coming to Game Pass. Here we go. The new ones that come out in the next week or two. Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons is out right now. Chants of Sennaar comes out May 15th, which is tomorrow from when we're recording. Will be in the past from when you hear this. That's the one that I would be most excited about from this list. It's a puzzle game about kind of trying to translate language, I believe, and it's supposed to be excellent. Next one, EA Sports NHL 24, Immortals of Avium on the 16th. Senua's Saga Hellblade 2. This one comes out next week on the 21st. And that one is coming to Game Pass on day one, since it was made by an Xbox-owned team, and the majority of their games do. Galacticare, Haunty, Moving Out to Humanity, and then another big one, in my opinion, Lords of the Fallen on May 30th. That's a cool Souls-like game, kind of a dual world idea. And then 6 games leaving at the end of the month, so play these before they leave if you so desire. Chicory: A Colorful Tale is a very colorful game. I enjoyed that one. Far World Pioneers, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure All-Star Battle, Pac-Man Museum Plus, Little Witch in the Woods, and Railway Empire 2. All right, a few more free games here, Devin, and then I want you to tell me what your pick of the week is for all of these.
Oh.
Nintendo Online. If you have their online service, they added 3 new games to their Game Boy kind of segment. First one is called Alleyway. It's a fun game, very similar to like Brick Breaker and Arkanoid. Baseball is a baseball game. And the third one is Super Mario Land, which is a very old Mario game, but has, especially for the Game Boy, just killer music in that game. It is so good. So I would definitely recommend Super Mario Land, especially if you've never played it. Then after you play it, play Super Mario Land 2, the 6 golden coins. Ooh, that game is also excellent. Okay, the Epic Game Store always has their free game of the week, and I don't know what it is. Right now it says mystery game, and it won't tell us till tomorrow, so make sure you add mystery game to your library on the Epic Game Store. Hopefully it will be something cool. Maybe it's Crash Bandicoot. Who knows? All right, and then if you have Amazon Prime, the Prime Gaming free games for the month of May are also out. Some of them you can redeem right on Amazon's launcher, and some of them it gives you a code for Good Old Games or GOG's launcher. But either way, you can get these games free. Tomb Raider Game of the Year Edition, that's a good game. I played it quite a few years ago. Lego Star Wars 3, The Clone Wars, Dark City International Intrigue, Fallout 3 Game of the Year Edition. So that one will have all the DLC and everything as well. Very popular gaming series right now. So there's your Fallout 3 if you have Prime. And a PC, I guess. 9 Witches, Family Disruption, Electrician Simulator, 100 Games, Escape from School, The Forgotten City, and Spirits of Mystery, Whisper of the Past. Whew. All right, Devin. That's all the free
games.
There's too many gaming subscriptions. I mean, I have Amazon Prime, right? So I have all of those. And then I have a Switch, so I definitely have those ones. We had a Game Pass trial for like a few more days because I bought the Rogue Ally. So we technically have all those for a few more days. And then I have PS Plus Premium, so we have all of those as well that we talked about.
Wow.
So
I have a question about Prime Gaming.
Yeah.
If you get a game through them, what platform do you play it on?
They have their own launcher. It's right here.
Oh, okay. So this is just for PC.
Yeah, it's for PC. You can play it on Amazon Games launcher, but then some of the times when you claim the game, it will give you a code for a different store, like Good Old Games or Steam or something. So kind of depends, but yeah, they do have their own launcher, which I know people don't like. Everyone wants everything to be on Steam because it's so wonderful, which it is. Steam is great, but I don't mind opening a different launcher. All right, and then last bit of the news, mini nuke, is the new games this week / month because of the board game debacle. New games this week. The first and probably biggest one of this week is Animal Well. Came out this last week. It is sitting at a mighty 89 on OpenCritic. It's a super awesome game. I'll talk about it later when we get to what we've been playing. Spoilers. Next one is Braid Anniversary Edition. Braid came out like 15, 12 years ago. And this is kind of a remastered version that they added a bunch of new puzzles to, if I'm understanding correctly. It's also got a mighty 89 on OpenCritic. That's one of the most like revered puzzle games of all time. So it makes sense that it would review well today as well. If you haven't played Braid, it's really good. It'll definitely destroy your brain though. It's all about, it's basically if you took Mario and made him do puzzles on like a one screen, so he's not like running to left and right to new screens. So you just got the one screen, but then the whole shtick is you can make Mario then go backwards or like rewind, but then some objects on the screen will not rewind when you rewind.
Oh boy.
It starts really easy and then it gets very brain burny, but it's an excellent game. I think that Jonathan Blow is one of the very best like puzzle game designers in the world. He did The Witness as well. Very cool. As a little tangent, a little sidebar here. I don't know if you saw this, but I thought it was kind of funny. There's been a lot of talk lately about how there are too many games just everywhere. I think like 15,000 games release on Steam every year, and like there's so many games that if the storefront that they are released on doesn't have really great curation, then it's hard to find anything. Like if I was making a new game right now and I released it, it would be buried in the new games section along with probably like 200 or 300 other games, right? So unless I got really lucky and like some streamer played my game and I got popular for being either funny or really good, like nobody would ever know I made a game basically because there's just so many. So this game Braid that I just mentioned, one of the most influential and important puzzle games to ever come out, as its remake come out this last week. And Jonathan Blow tweets out, quote, "I like the PS5, but Braid Anniversary seems unfindable on the PlayStation Store. We're placed at the very bottom of a huge block of 70 plus games. Is this order consistent for anyone or anyone else, or is it randomized? If consistent, RIP our PS5 sales. Does someone at Sony hate us?" And I know this has been a big issue, especially this kind of reaches out into a lot of other topics. One other topic is that there are some companies that make really crappy games. A lot of people call them asset flip games, For example, in the last year, there's probably been 75, maybe more, games called something jumps, like hamburger jumps, chicken nuggets jump, milkshake jumps, French fry jumps,
Turtle jumps.
Yeah, pickled beet jumps, and basically it's the same game, but they've flipped the assets to, okay, it's not a hamburger this time, it's a beet or a milkshake. And if you buy this game, this new version for $1, it has its own separate platinum trophy that you can earn in 5 minutes. And somehow people have found kind of a niche in that. Like, okay, well, we know there's people that love trophies. We know that there's people that will buy these if we price them at $1 or $2. And we're just going to make 100 of them. And, they're of very low quality, and they just kind of bloat the store. And then good games that took years and years and hundreds of thousands of dollars of people's time and effort to make just get buried and lost amongst all of the garbage. Anyways, so my question to you, Devin, was, have you ever tried or struggled to find anything like on the PlayStation Store or any other storefront?
Oh, absolutely. Actually, yesterday, because I started Skyrim today.
Yeah.
And I could not find. I knew or maybe this was a few days ago, there was the whole Fallout Skyrim bundle with all the DLCs.
Mm-hmm.
I searched for that thing everywhere. I searched both games, but you had to type a specific word in there to find the actual bundle. And the word was not bundle. The word was something else. I don't remember what the word was, but it took me a minute to get there. And it was kind of frustrating. And I still don't know how to download the DLCs that I bought.
They're not in there yet?
No.
Did you try hitting options on the game in the front screen? And there wasn't there?
It doesn't appear.
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, we'll have to figure that out. But yeah, I've also struggled as someone who I play primarily on the PlayStation. So I'm in the PlayStation Store all the freaking time. I have the PlayStation app on my phone. Every Wednesday, they update the store with a new sale or, whatever else. And I'm generally looking in there every week. If there's a sale, I'll look at every page. There might be 50 pages of the sale and it's 2,500 games. But I'll just casually scroll through. I also have a wish list in there, but you can only put up to 100 items in your wish list. So my wish list is always capped out, which is frustrating. And even someone like me who's in there all the stinking time, all the time, I can still never find things too, unless I know the name of the thing I'm looking for and search for it. So I agree kind of with everything that is said about this. There's a lot of garbage on the store. I wish there wasn't. I do think that anyone should be able to make, a game if they want to. But yeah. I don't think anyone should be able to flip one game into 1,000 games that just bloats your storefront. So, yeah, I don't know. There's got to be some way to fix it. Sony, Steam, Nintendo, get on that. Fix that.
Get it together.
Yeah. All right, but that was a Braid Anniversary Edition. I bet it's wonderful. I'm excited to play it. The next one I thought looks really cool too. You might like it, Evan. It's called Crow Country and has a very kind of unique vibe, and it was definitely inspired by the original Resident Evil games.
So that's exactly what I thought when I saw it.
Yeah.
Resident Evil or Tomb Raider, it looks like it's kind of the same camera angles as Resident Evil.
Yeah.
And the graphics look like it's from the PS1.
Yep, that's definitely what they were going for. Since it is a little more colorful and there's birds and I don't know, other creatures that looked like, it doesn't look like it would be quite as scary. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they're able to make it scary with that as well. But I know people have been really liking that one. It's kind of an old retro style survival horror game like that. So I want to check that out if I ever have time. Next one, Homeworld 3 came out this last week. Has a strong 80 on OpenCritic. And I believe that's kind of a civilization building game. That's not the right word. It's maybe that is the right word, like a SimCity kind of thing, where you're building out communities and yeah, I think that's what that is. Then Little Kitty, Big City came out. Is also on Game Pass if you have Game Pass. It's got a strong 77. Seems like a pretty solid game, especially if you got it in your subscription. So check that out. All right, so that was the mini nuke of news this week, and that way the main news won't be quite as long either. Lots of free games. If you have a subscription service, make sure that you make sure you're getting your money's worth out of those subscription services. I feel like they're all going up in price, so make sure you download these games, add them to your libraries, try some of them. With so many games coming out all the time for them all, I mean, I really like to try a new game, so I'll play one for 30 minutes. If I'm not vibing with it, that's okay. It was part of my subscription. I'll just bounce. So give those a try, and try Super Mario Land. It's a good one. What was your pick of the litter there, Dev?
Oh, I have a couple thoughts. There was one pick of the litter that's torture, and that's going to be throwing a trial of one of the greatest games ever made at your fan base.
Yeah,
you're just asking for money. You're like, hey, we're gonna give you a little piece of this cake. You're gonna love the cake so much that you're gonna be forced to send us money. And that's The Last of Us Part 2 remastered.
Yeah.
The two that I would say for me win, but these are just the types of games I like to play, are Red Dead Redemption 2. Hilarious game, huge. I haven't beat it, not even close. I've probably only put 10 hours into it. And then if Fallout 3 is anything like Fallout 4, you've got to play it. I think, especially if it comes with DLCs, because it's the Game of the Year edition.
Mm-hmm. I think that's what that means, that it would come with everything bundled. Yeah, those are two great picks. I mean, if you played both of those games, not even 100% of them, but played them doing, as much of the side stuff that interested you, you probably could play both those games for 150 hours and still not finish them both.
Right.
I did finish Red Dead, and towards the end, it is a freaking long game. It is very long. If you mainline the story, I bet it's 40-ish hours.
Wow.
You can maybe do it faster than that if you're really good, but it's just long. There's a lot of story and a lot of locations and things. And so I was doing quite a bit of side stuff at the beginning, but then towards the end I was like, I gotta finish this thing. And it's so long, but it's excellent. Some of those story moments, when you and your gang approach that manor at night, that game's great. And then Fallout. I haven't played 3 in over a decade, but good picks, Devin. I like those.
Thank you, sir.
All right, next up, we've got the games that we've been playing. I feel like I've been talking a lot, so I'm going to let you talk first, Devin. I think you've maybe finished Fallout 4. Is that right?
Yes, we did. We did pretty much the entire campaign of Fallout 4, a ton of side missions. And then people decided they wanted me to keep playing the game, so they bought me the DLC, or Nuke World is what it was called. This was like a massive amusement park based on soda. And so they had all different types of Nuka Cola. You had orange and quartz and shiny ones and blue ones, and that was cool. And for a $10 DLC, it gave me 20 to 25 hours of content, which was insane. I mean, that was 50 cents an hour I was paying,
Yeah.
That's not bad. And so that DLC was fantastic. We also played a DLC called Far Harbor. Not as fantastic. Some people will disagree and hate me for saying that, but it was just darker, very foggy, a lot of water. It was still amazing, but not as good. And then we went back to the main mission, sided with what's called the Brotherhood of Steel. That's what everyone told me to do. We got a massive iron giant looking thing that walked with us to destroy everything, and then we saved the Commonwealth. Oh, wow. What a time. Fantastic game. I'm going to miss it. I'm going to miss the music. I'm going to miss the aesthetic. But we moved on to another Bethesda game, and that is Skyrim. And I don't have too many thoughts about Skyrim yet because we've only played it for a day, but the graphics are worse. But that's okay. I got used to it quick. Your eyes adjust, and all of a sudden you forget it. It did have a PS5 version, which is goated because it might have added frame rate. For being an older game, I was shocked that it felt like it was 60 frames. But I think it was. So we downloaded that version. I think the game's going to be super fun. It's very similar to Fallout in many ways, but Fallout definitely had some quality of life improvements. For example, if you have a marker on your map and you're trying to find where to go, in Fallout, it would tell you if it's a story above you or below you. It would have a pointer up or down. This does not. So there's a few things that Skyrim, a few game mechanics that maybe just weren't as popular or weren't known yet. The Skyrim is missing, but the upgrade system seems very similar. I like that I'm fighting with a sword instead of just being able to shoot from a distance. I find that fun. I'm an orc. And I think the game's going to be amazing. I really do. We have all the DLCs for that too. So I'm thinking it's probably going to take us 2 weeks of 6 to 8 hour days to beat. We're going to have a lot of hours in that game.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember watching someone play it a long time ago, and it seemed really cool. I like the kind of the idea of that you need to go out and fight these dragons. And I think each one you kill, you get some new special ability or something. If I remember correctly, I think the Elder Scrolls game I played the most of is number 3, Morrowind, which was forever ago. But I think, you have your 2 hands, right? And you can like equip something in either one or both, and they're always on the screen. And then do you use like the right trigger to do something with the right one and the left trigger to do something with the left one? Is it kind of like that?
You do, at least in Skyrim you do, yes.
Yeah. I remember playing a few minutes of it and being confused by that, because I was like, okay, what do I pull the left trigger to like, I don't know, pull out my shield or what? And so it's a little...
Exactly. L2 is always used for blocking or zooming in your camera or aiming down sights. Mm-hmm. And so L2 is a weird attack button.
Yeah, I think that's what I was confused about, but I'm sure you get used to it. And I think the cool part about that is you can be really specific or custom with your build. Like,
yes,
put whatever you want in either hand, I'm assuming.
And everyone has a different opinion about how you should do your build.
I'm sure. What are you doing along with your sword? Has it been like a shield or magic, or?
It's been healing magic and fire magic in my left hand. I don't know what else is out there. It sounds like there's a ton of abilities eventually. I'm sure we won't see them all, but it's going to be hard for me to discard healing ever.
Yeah.
You know?
Is there like a quick swap where you can push a button on the D-pad or something? And
you push a button on the D-pad, scroll to it, click select, and then you're back into the gameplay. So it's a little bit tedious, but it's not bad.
Okay. Cool. Well, exciting. Devin's just super down the Bethesda rabbit hole.
Oh my gosh, and I'm loving it. I didn't know what I was missing out on. People were saying that's like Bethesda's beautiful with all of its issues.
Yeah.
And it really is. It's just funny. You just expect the issues, you can laugh at them. Weird things happen in the games, funny things happen, unique things happen to you that have never happened to other players. Mm-hmm. And I think that makes a game amazing.
Yeah, I agree. Building systems and physics and stuff, and then just letting it kind of play out. I remember looking over at one point today, and there was an NPC floating in the air.
That was strange.
So yeah, they definitely do have a bug every now and again, but I think it's usually funny. Cool. Well, Devin's playing some bangers. For me, I'm still kind of playing... Oh, we got one more game we'll talk about in a minute. I'm still playing my way through Balatro and Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. My new game this week, I did start Animal Well. Little plug here, I've got the first hour and a half up on our YouTube channel, Super Game Brothers, so check that out if you want to check out the game. It's very cool. It was made by one person, which is incredible. And this is the first game published by Big Mode, which is Video Game Donkey's publisher. So, in case you wanted to know all that nonsense. But it's a very cool Metroidvania game. You play as like this little Kirby-shaped little blob dude. And you kind of just like wake up in this flower, and then you're exploring this humongous like Metroidvania map and getting new items to like unlock new areas and things. And the items are very silly. I really feel like you should know almost nothing going into this game. So I'm not going to like go into uber specifics on anything. Very like weird vibes. It kind of reminds me of like Donnie Darko. Like
Ooh, I
that.
love Donnie Darko.
I haven't seen it in forever, but
I considered getting the Donnie Darko rabbit costume at one point, and then I was like, why would I need that?
yeah, that's the thing. The rabbit, kind of that kind of vibe is in the game for sure. There's like weird looking animals, and some of them are friendly and some are not. And but at its heart, it's kind of a puzzle game. There will be, you're moving around like in Metroidvania style, where okay, I can, if I get the double jump or whatever, I can get to a new room and unlock new doors. And in a lot of doors or rooms, there'll be a locked door with a certain number of panels on it that you need to light up, and you light those up generally by pushing a yellow button. So then you have to find the certain buttons to open new doors. And yeah, just the items you get and the ways that you unlock those doors in the new areas is really cool. I like it when a game makes you feel smart. And I think going back to Jonathan Blow, I think The Witness and Braid really do, like, you like struggle with them for a minute, and like your brain gets smarter as you're playing. Like, oh, I get this. Like in The Witness, this is a spoiler for The Witness, but in The Witness, you have to solve those little panel puzzles, and I think there's like 800 of them on that island. It's basically a snake puzzle. You have to get like the little thing to the end of the maze. And then like towards the middle to the end of the game, you start seeing those puzzles out in nature and in like the skyline and the mountains. And if you point at them with your cursor, you can also do like that maze puzzle on like the environment that's not in the panel. Cool. And so it just like kind of layers on top of each other. And Animal Well seems like it will be like that too. Like I got the first item blows bubbles. It's kind of a quirky little item. And I was like, ooh, I wonder if I can do this specific thing. I won't say it because I think figuring out what you can do with it is a cool moment. But like it totally let me do it. And I was like, man, I don't feel like most games would have let me do that. But it let me break it in like a cool way so that I could have that moment. And then it was like, okay, you broke it. Here's a room that's going to make it really hard for you to break it. Get through that, sucker. And so then it just like kind of, it knew you were going to try, even though trying is a thing that's difficult to think about. I don't know. I think it's a really cool and special game if you like puzzles. If you don't like puzzles, then I don't know that you'll jive with it. But yeah, super awesome. You just play as that little Kirby little dude just running through these this Metroidvania areas, and yeah, just really great. I really like the artwork too. It's pixel art, but kind of has this like neon flair to it. And it's very pretty pixel art. There'll be like reflections in the water and things like that, and really awesome. It's free on PlayStation Plus Extra. Absolutely worth free. And even if you don't play on PlayStation and you play on, this would be an excellent like Steam Deck game. I don't know if it's out on Switch. It'd be a good Switch game too. But yeah, if you have a Rogue Ally or a PC or a Steam Deck, great on there. And it's really great on the PlayStation.
I need to get a Steam Deck so I can compare it to your Ally. We need to hold them. Have you held both of them?
I haven't. Two of my neighbors have Steam Decks, and they have held my Ally, and they won't
let you touch their stuff though.
We have a game night at my house every week, and so I don't get to go to their house. I'll text them and tell them to bring it because I do want to feel. They have said it's bulkier and a little more round. So if you have big hands, then like the Steam Deck might be a little better because since it's more bulky and round, you kind of have to wrap around it more. Where the Ally is a little more like sleek and thin, but it does kind of have like it's not like sharp, but kind of like a sharper corner because it is like kind of pointy edges and not like a huge round thing. I really like how the Ally feels. I think it's great. Ally's super cool. 1080 screen, 120 frames on that screen. Hard to beat, but they actually did just announce the Rogue Ally X, which is the new model. It's not a 2, though.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, are you mad?
No, I'm not. Because I got mine for such a good deal, I'm not mad. It basically, I think, just has maybe more internal storage or something and a bigger battery. so the battery lasts longer. But I play mine in my house, and I have 2 or 3 cords that can charge it, so I'm never really hurting for battery when I'm using it. So yeah, check out that if you want the new X, I guess. But yeah, Animal Well, highest recommendation. Super great. Try it out. Go in knowing nothing and just enjoy the puzzles and run away from the ostrich. That's all I'll say. Other than that, I already mentioned I'm still playing Balatro, still playing Prince of Persia. I need to get back to Fallout 4. I've played probably 6 or 7 hours and need to continue that. The other game that we played, Devin, was was this last night or 2 nights ago? We played Spelunky 2 for the first time, I think, in probably a year or so. And man, it just rekindled a love for Spelunky in me.
Oh my gosh, I agree. I was thinking about it and I was like, I don't want to be done.
Yeah.
I was like, this is kind of fun to do a 2D game and then find all the secrets in the game, even though it's more difficult than most 3D games.
Oh yeah. Very hard. Yeah, super love it. I'm really glad that it seems like they have fixed the multiplayer issues that it had when multiplayer first launched for it, because it was pretty buggy. We had a lot of runs where it just froze and crashed. But we even had one time during the run a couple days ago where it did freeze for 10 seconds, but then it just fixed itself. So it seems like it's in a really good place. Lag seemed non-existent. So yeah, Spelunky 2 is just amazing. If you haven't played Spelunky or Spelunky 2, they're both incredible. I would even say play the first one first. I mean, it'll give you more of a taste for it. You can probably get it for $3 at this point, I would imagine. And it has so many secrets in it. And then by the time you finally beat it and the alternate endings, then you'll be ready for Spelunky 2, which just kind of takes it and ramps it up to 1,000. Yeah, super game. As another plug, we have that video of Devin and I playing Spelunky 2 on our Patreon at patreon.com/supergamebrothers. And yeah, that was a fun video. I basically just swapped our screens every level. So it was Devin's screen for level, my screen for level, unless one of us died. Then if you died, I swapped back to the other person. So
yeah, you guys should check it out. That was my favorite advanced episode we've done so far.
Yeah, we've been playing a lot of board games on there in the past because it's been a little easier to film.
And I'm just addicted to video games.
No, you're good. I'm addicted to both, so I don't know if that's better or worse. Because yeah, it's a little tricky to record 2 people playing the same game, because then you're like, okay, do we both record the game audio? Yeah, it was a big mess, but I think we figured it out in an okay way. I need to perfect my editing skills so I can get the audio perfectly lined up. Anyways, but Spelunky 2, so good. Play Spelunky and Spelunky 2, and then play Animal Well, and then Balatro, and you will have played 4 of the very best games of the last decade. You'll be living and eating well. So do that. And then follow Devin's advice from earlier and play Red Dead Redemption 2, Fallout 3, and then the 2 games he just played, Fallout 4 and Skyrim. And then you'll probably be 75 years old because those games are so long, but you will have played them. So there's that. Whew, all right. Well, for board games this week, I've got a couple. And one of them I know Devin's played. We weren't able to play any board games together this week. So unless Devin has some crazy surprise, I don't think he was able to play a board, unless you played a board game with our younger siblings or parents or something.
I played Scattergories.
Hey, there you go. That's one of my wife's very favorite games, and she is killer at it. Absolutely crush your soul.
I have a problem with Scattergories.
I don't like it either. Go ahead.
Who's the judge of if a word is valid or not?
I think in the rules, it says that it's the other players. And if there's ever one where the person that gave the answer and someone else can't agree, then the rest of the players do a vote, I think, to determine if it passes or not. Yeah,
see,
that can be a sticky point.
That's what I don't like about the game. Yep. I don't like that. For example, name an item in the basement that starts with T. It's toothbrush, TV. It's those aren't really specific to basements.
Right.
And so it's do you make the answers be extremely specific? or let it be extremely broad and let everyone get 35 points per round with the dumbest answers. I can't. I don't. It's fun. It's fun, but I don't know. It eats at me a little bit.
Yeah. I'm not a huge categories fan either. I do have it, but it doesn't earn a place on my nice 5x5 shelf behind me.
It's in the garage.
It's in the closet. Yeah, I don't know. We even play. Lacey likes to play like advanced mode. It's not an official like in the rule book variant or anything, but we take a whole sheet of paper where it has 3 lines usually. So you would play 3 rounds, right? With that side. We use that one side for 1 round. So you can give 3 answers for each prompt. And she will just like, I don't know how her brain thinks of those things so fast. She will have like 50 answers by the end of this thing. There's not even 50 lines. So many. She crushes me in that game. It ticks me off. Well, cool. That's a cool surprise. Categories. There you go. The 2 games I played, my game group and I only had 45 minutes this last week, which is very short if you're going to teach and play a board game. Even like a board game that is like 30 minutes to play, if you're going to teach it, you almost have to double it usually, unless it's like the simplest game ever. So we played a tried and true classic that I really like. I'll just show it. It's called Long Shot, the dice game. Where's my screen here? There it is. And it's a game where you bet on horses in this horse race. And so on every turn, you'll roll a die, and one of the horses will move either 1, 2, or 3 spaces forward. And then on that horse's card, they'll have marked a couple other horses that will also move forward 1 space. And so it's a roll and write. You roll the dice, and then you have your own little player board where you will write stuff. You have money that you start the game with, and then you can place a bet on a horse, or you can buy a jersey of the horse or a helmet. So some merch. You can buy concessions at the concession stand. And then as you're crossing off and betting on your own board, you are hoping that the horses that you're betting on are doing well in the race. You can actually purchase horses during the race too, so that you hopefully will own one of the horses that gets first, second, or third place. So there's lots of different ways to get money. Owning a horse, betting on horses, getting a bunch of concessions in vertical columns or horizontal rows, and whoever has the most money at the end of the game wins. And I think it says on the box 25 minutes, and that's probably about right. Might take you 10 minutes to teach it, so you might be at 35 by the end. But really fun game, plays up to 8 players, and it's just kind of a laugh fest. You can do special moves where you move the horse backwards 3 spaces that someone else has really been betting on, and so you can mess up each other's plans a little bit. And it's just fun. I got absolutely crushed. My friend down the street, he bought a horse that won first place, bought a horse that won third place, and then bet all his money on those 2 horses as well. So he beat all of us by like 100 points, but it was a fun time. Only 25 minutes. You don't even really care if you lose because it's just fun. So Long Shot the dice game, it's a great one. I prefer it to something like Camel Up because I think gives you like the same experience, but it's like half as long. It's only like 25, 30 minutes, where Camel Up's usually like a bit longer than that. So similar vibe though. So that's Long Shot the dice game. Really like that one. And then anyone who listened last week, I told you I was going to have show and tell this week for a game. So I'm going to wait right here until you comment on this episode to tell me what that game was. Not really, but the game is brand new. It's called Sand, and it's a game it's a pick up and deliver game. So you're picking up goods. You and your little silkworm are going through the desert, picking up goods, and then selling those goods to cities and camps and places to make as much money. Whoever makes the most money by the end of the 6 days is the winner. It's a fairly complex game. Each player has their own player board, and Devin, this might be a little hard to see, but I'll try to get it close. On your player board, you have 4 circles here at the top that are action spaces, and they have 4 discs on them. One's red, one's black, one's white, and one's blue, and they correspond to these 4 dice that are rolled at the start of every day over here. And so then you can use those tokens to do an action of that strength, matching the color. So I could, if I use the red one, I could do an action of strength 2 in this example because the red die is rolled to a 2. The tricky part is anytime you pick up a good and are carrying it, it goes in one of these slots right here and blocks that action spot. So now, since I'm carrying 1 good, I can no longer do 4 actions on a turn. I can only do 3. And then if you were carrying a second or a third good, you even get more restricted. So it gets a little crazy, and you have to move around this board to all these different locations to sell those goods. So it's kind of a little bit of a puzzle in that way, but I've only played it once so far. I played it solo. I should have played that solo playthrough up on my gaming top-down YouTube channel probably tomorrow. That's the video that's been giving me issues exporting for my video editing software. But super fun game. It's been very popular this year, and I really liked it. Way more than any other pick up and deliver game I've played. The puzzle of managing your worm is very tricky. But because it's tricky, like you feel really good when you can pull off a good turn. Like, okay, do I want to pick up this second good and block a second spot? But then during the game, you do get more capable. You can upgrade your silkworm, I think, twice. And when you upgrade them, they get better. So you can move faster and eat more easily. You also have to manage your silkworm's thirst, hunger, and health by restoring it, and when you move, it will use those resources. So you have to manage a lot of things in the game, but it's super solid. I'm really excited to play a multiplayer game of it, because the solo bot, very easy to run. You basically just flip over a card on his turn, do what it says, and then you do 3 cards on each of his turns. But super easy. You can do his part in 20 seconds, which is nice. But he kind of stayed on the other side of the board from me, so there wasn't really any fighting over any of the spots. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays with 2, 3, or 4. So yeah, really, really liked Sand. That is, I think it's still number 1 on Board Game Geek's hotness list. So it's kind of the hot game of the moment. And just kind of goes back to what I was talking about last week. It's hard to tell when games come out, because I have this one. I've had it for almost a week now. But a lot of shops are saying it doesn't come out till June. And some reviewers got it a few months ago to put reviews up on their YouTube channel. So it's just a whole mess. But Sand is really great. And yeah, really liked it. So I'm excited to play it some more. All right. That is the board games and video games we've been playing. That's quite a list we had there. I'm proud of us. Look at us go.
Look at us go.
Yeah, who would have thought? Yeah, it's like we like them or something. All right, well, now on to the regular news segment. I didn't know what to call the regular news. We could call it the Megaton Nuke, or we'll just call it the news. Let's start with the video game news first, and then we'll go to board game news. Maybe we'll just swap week to week. All right, Devin, you remember the story last week about Helldivers 2 and all of the review bombing because Sony wanted to make everybody connect their PlayStation Network accounts. But then they changed their minds and said, sorry, we won't do that. Don't be mad at us. And everyone started review bombing it the other way. What's the opposite of a review bomb? A review
build.
Ah, there you go. Review build. Well, there's a little more drama with that. So Sony is releasing Ghost of Tsushima on PC. I believe it comes out on Friday, May 17th, which is my birthday. And that game is also supposed to connect to your PlayStation Network account, at least for the multiplayer mode called Legends, which is a pretty fun mode, actually. I've played a little bit of it. I feel like we maybe played a little bit of it. Can't remember. But with Sony backtracking all of the Helldivers stuff, it's been really confusing. So last week, I think I said that because of the whole kerfuffle, Sony started taking down Helldivers 2 from all of the storefronts in countries where you can't have a PlayStation Network account. And it was like 170 countries or something. they said that they were going to come out with their future plans for how they would handle their future games, but this game is coming out so soon, it comes out in 2 days, that they haven't had time to do that. And so for some reason, they have delisted Ghost of Tsushima from those same 180 countries. I'm assuming for the same reason. They don't have PlayStation Network there, and Steam's actually been refunding those people. So yeah, just kind of a weird one. I feel like they're kind of playing with fire again here, and the internet might get really mad at them again. So hopefully they sort all of this out ASAP. But just wanted to do a little follow-up on that one. I thought it was kind of funny. All right. I mentioned the earnings calls earlier in the show. We got 3 that we're going to talk about just briefly. I don't want to get too in-depth. This isn't a finance show. But I think there's some fun things in here. So Nintendo had their earnings call. It was actually a couple weeks ago, but I wanted to talk about it here too because I think it compares well to some of the others. The main points that they brought up were, they talk about how much money they've made and if they hit their goals and whatever, and tell their shareholders about that. So basically, they've had insane profits since the Switch released, which makes sense. They're selling a ton of games, a ton of Switches. And I saw this post on Twitter, which I thought was pretty funny. And it said that Nintendo's net profit from 1981 to 2016, so before the Switch came out, and for what is that, 35 years? If I'm mathing right, is 2,376 billion yen. So what's that? 2,376 billion yen. I think that's right. That's what. Anyways, the net profit that they've made just in the Switch era from 2017 to now is 2.576 billion yen, and so they've made more money in the last 6 years in profit than they've made in the 35 before that, which is kind of crazy. They're just making so much money. And it's crazy how many games they sell. And this is kind of what I do. On the Switch, I only buy Nintendo games. And any game that is multi-platform, I don't buy on the Switch, generally. I'll buy it on my PlayStation. Or if it's like a game I really want on handheld, then I'll probably buy it on Steam.
I have an idea. They should take this $2,000 billion that they made and increase the frame rate and the visual qualities of their game.
Yeah, I don't disagree. And add freaking achievements. But they probably won't do any of those things because they're Nintendo. But anyways, I wanted to just list. They also gave new updates for how many copies their games have sold. And these numbers are crazy. And Microsoft and Sony would love for their games to sell anywhere near this much. So Mario Kart 8 has sold almost 62 million copies. Animal Crossing New Horizons 45.3, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate 34.2 million, Breath of the Wild is almost at 32 million, Mario Odyssey almost at 28, and Tears of the Kingdom is at 20.6 million after about a year. And they just sell so much. I think that Sony lumps their games together in franchises. So I think they say the Spider-Man franchise has sold 35 million or whatever, but that's Spider-Man Miles Morales, and Spider-Man 2. Where Nintendo's just hold my non-alcoholic beer. And I don't know. They've kind of got their niche, right? Where they have some of the most important IP in the world, Mario and Donkey Kong and Zelda. And they know that those are the main games that people are coming to play on their system. So kind of crazy. The last thing we mentioned last week, they said they're not going to talk about the Switch successor at the Nintendo Direct in June, but they'll be talking about it sometime this fiscal year. All right, Sony also had their earnings call. Theirs was pretty solid, not as gangbusters as Nintendo's, but there were a few things that they announced. So the first one, PlayStation CEO Jim Ryan, he stepped down or moved on, retired, whatever he did. I think at the end of, maybe it was April 1st, and they've had an interim CEO. I think it was Sony's like CFO stepped down to like be the CEO for a couple months. So they've announced their new CEO. It's actually 2 CEOs. Dun dun dun. So it will be Herman Holst. He was previously president of PlayStation Studios. So not a big change for him, but he's going to be the CEO of a new group called the Studio Business Group Unit, which oversees the first party teams, which he already was doing, and PlayStation Productions, movies and TV shows. So Uncharted, Sweet Tooth, The Last of Us, those were all made in kind of collaboration with or by PlayStation's productions team. So he'll oversee that half. And then the other CEO is, I hope I pronounce this right, Hideki Nishino, and he will lead the platform business group. He'll be responsible for hardware, accessories, PlayStation Network, and third-party relations. So they're going to have a kind of a 2-man leadership now. Thought that was kind of a cool idea. Next thing they announced is Helldivers 2 is their fastest selling exclusive ever. So it beat God of War Ragnarok's record. It is on PC and PlayStation 5. And most people think that it sold more copies on PC than on PlayStation 5. So this is a combined number, right? And
I was going to say, there's no way.
And like Ragnarok was not on PC when it launched. So Ragnarok sold 11 million units in 10 weeks. And Helldivers 2 sold 12 million in 12 weeks, which is a different measurement of weeks, but is their fastest selling game. So good for Arrowhead and Helldivers 2. It deserves it. It's a fun game. Next thing they announced was, well, they didn't announce this. They had a slide deck that listed, I don't remember the exact wording, but here's our live service game initiative for this year. And one of the releases was Destiny, what's that expansion called? The Final Shape that comes out next month. And then the game right next to it was Conquered, which they announced with a tiny short trailer last year. I haven't really said anything new about since then. So that seems like it will be coming out this year. It's a live service game, which means it will get updates. It might even be free to play. Who knows? We'll see what they do there. I'm sure they'll talk about that game extensively in any showcase that they might have soon, based on the leakers that were talking about that last week. So they talked about that. As of March 31st, Sony has shipped 59.2 PlayStation 5. Shipped means that they have sold them from like themselves to retailers, so Amazon and Walmart. So these aren't necessarily in people's homes, but they will be eventually. So they've shipped 59.2 million. This is if you put PlayStation 4's launch date on the same launch day as PlayStation 5. PlayStation 4 had sold 60 million at this point, so they're just about neck and neck, which is pretty impressive because the PlayStation 5 launched during a global pandemic, and because of all the issues there, they really struggled to get them out in the first probably 2 years, year and a half. Then the last few quarters, they've had crazy quarters. I think they had one quarter where they sold 6 point something million, and PlayStation 4's biggest quarter ever was 3.4 or something. So they're just having massive quarters lately. So I don't know if they said they don't think the PlayStation 5 is going to pass the PlayStation 4 next year, but we'll see. So that was an update there on those sales. And then this is probably the thing most people have been talking about this week, in at least they're sometimes called the HD twins, which is Sony and Microsoft. So they're kind of a console war, right? There's always been the fight between those two, with Nintendo kind of overdoing their own thing for whatever reason. Well, because they make shiz tons of money. But let's see. Sony sold 20.8 million PlayStation 5s in their last fiscal year, so in the last 12 months. And this was just barely below their goal. They had initially set their goal at 25 million, which is like a crazy goal. And then they did end up revising it 6 months in or something and saying, no, I think we'll probably sell 21 million. They're just about there. And some other industry analysts have more data than me and you just reading things on Twitter and game sites. This one, his name's Daniel Ahmad. He's very well known, very well connected. He said on Twitter, quote, "The PlayStation 5 shipped 4.5 million units in the last quarter, kind of working to get to that 20.8. According to our estimates, this is almost 5 times more than the Xbox Series X and S shipped in the same period." End quote. And that kind of goes with the rumors I talked about last week about them only selling like 800,000 in a quarter. So kind of crazy. This has been the talk of the town in that Xbox is selling so few units right now. And I think, like I said last week, I think it makes sense if you tell your hardcore player base, all of our games, well, they haven't said this yet, but they've kind of said it with their actions. Our games are coming to PlayStation. Why would anyone buy an Xbox? And it seems like...
Yeah, that's a great point. If you can get all the games in one place, why buy 2 consoles?
Exactly. And yeah, so I think they've just kind of dug their own grave there with that system. Even though I think it's cool, the Xbox Series X is like super cool looking and like the user interface is sleek. They do really awesome initiatives. Like their backwards compatibility initiative is awesome. You can play Xbox 360 games on that thing and they're like updated in 4K at 120 frames per second. I'm just like, man, I wish Sony would do those kinds of things. So they like do awesome things over there, and they have some like cool games, Halo and Gears and Pentiment and Hi-Fi Rush and stuff, but they're just in a really weird place right now with this transition, and it seems like Xbox sales are just falling off a cliff. So I don't know. I don't know really what else to say about it. I'm not like the smartest industry person in the world, but it does seem like they're just gonna... There might be like an Xbox Series 2 or Series Y and Z. I'm guessing they would still make one, but my guess is by that point, all of their games will be everywhere anyways. And that would just kind of be for enthusiasts that really want to be in the Microsoft ecosystem. So kind of weird, but yeah. So Nintendo, Sony doing really well. There was one more, one more point here on the Sony front. They did say that they're like changing their focus just slightly from focusing too much on the number of software units sold, games sold, and they want to focus more on playtime per user, and I think the amount of revenue extracted per player, and on richer experiences and first-party games and more PlayStation 5 users. So a little bit of shift of focus. This kind of just comes with like the Fortnite world, where people don't buy Fortnite. So software sales on Fortnite are 0. But Fortnite makes more money than basically anything because you can buy Kratos in there for $20 or whatever. So they definitely want a piece of that pie, and it's just kind of the shifting nature of the industry. I hope they don't change too much because they're story-based. First-party games are kind of really important to their ecosystem. Whew. Anything you want to say about Nintendo or Sony's financial calls, Devin? Did you do all the analyses, make the graphs and charts, and share the... You were probably on the phone with Steve Ballmer and Satya Nadella talking about the Microsoft stuff.
Oh, yeah, I was on the phone with Daniel Ahmed and Herman Holtz.
Yeah.
No, I have no idea. I don't know money stuff.
No, I don't know a lot about this finance stuff either. But anyways, one more earnings call, just because it has an interesting bit of news that came out of it. Square Enix had theirs. They make a lot of very, well-known and famous, been around for a long time, but Japanese games. Final Fantasy is them. They have a lot more games. I think they did Forspoken a couple years ago. Didn't do great, but they do a lot of stuff over there. Their financial call was not so great. They said that Final Fantasy 16, which I thought was awesome. I still haven't finished it, but I probably played 30 games. Super cool. And Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth both underperformed their expectations. We know that they sold pretty well. Like they sold millions and millions of units, but they said they underperformed their expectations. And they did release Foam Stars like in February, like the day before or after Helldivers 2 came out, so nobody cared at all.
Ooh, that's rough.
Yeah, that's really rough. So I think they've had those two big games underperforming, Foam Stars doing nothing. And so I think they are worried a little bit about money in that way, obviously. So they said they're restructuring, and so they're going to have some layoffs in America and Europe, and I think that's actually already started. Some people have been posting on Twitter that they've been laid off. So our hearts go out to them. Sorry for the layoffs. That's never an easy time. And then this next part was the thing that was most interesting and that most people were talking about in the industry. They said that because of their renewed focus to, try and make more money because these bigger games underperformed, they're going to stop publishing exclusive games and put their games on as many platforms as possible. And I think the key word they used was aggressively. And one of the kind of initiatives they've had for a long time is they have a very close partnership with PlayStation. So Final Fantasy 16, Final Fantasy 7 Remake, and Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth are only on PlayStation. So it's kind of interesting. They have this special partnership with PlayStation. Sony probably paid them a lot of money to say, keep this game only on our platform. Don't put it anywhere else. I think Final Fantasy 16 is having a PC release soon, but Sony puts their own games on PC. They don't really see it as a competitor. But it seems like Square Enix is going to change. I'm guessing any other new games from them are not going to just be PlayStation games. So maybe good news for gamers on other platforms, even though it sounds like the Xbox platform is not going to be around much longer. So, I don't know, kind of a big mess. But anyways, that was a big talking point this week. They're going to aggressively push their games to as many platforms as possible. All right, those were the earnings calls. That was the boring financial stuff. The next one, I wanted to talk about Xbox for a minute in a positive light. They had a few things this week that I thought were cool. They're being pretty quiet right now because they have their showcase next month that they've already announced. I think it's like I don't remember, the 8th of June or something. So they'll probably have a lot of cool stuff to show then, Indiana Jones and whatever else. And they did just lay off a couple teams and got a bit of backlash for that. So they're being pretty quiet right now. But they announced just today this cool new controller. It's called the Proteus controller, and it's for players with disabilities. Super cool looking controller. It's basically all these little cubes, and it looks like you can attach different modules to these cubes. So like a D-pad or an analog stick or buttons. And then the cubes can hook together in any assortment of ways that you want or need them to. So you can kind of form them to however you need. I thought it looked really cool. It's pretty expensive. I think it's $300. They might have a deal going on for like the first 6 months or something for it to be like $250, but I think the MSRP on that page was $300. Super cool looking. I'm glad that both Sony and Microsoft are doing things like this. Sony released their controller last year that's meant for people with disabilities, and it was really cool. Kind of different idea, though. It's not a cube system like this. It's kind of like a big joystick that you can connect side things to. So it's cool to see these companies continue to try to meet players where they are. And I know there is
way cool.
a big proponent or a big portion of, well, not maybe big, but there is a portion of the gaming audience that needs these kinds of things. I know there's a pretty popular creator in the video game space who's mostly blind, I think, but he's able to play with some, I don't know if it's like sight assistance or something else, but so just glad that more people can play, and that controller looks really cool. I would love to try one. Next up for Xbox, Starfield just got a big update. I'm guessing Devin will play Starfield someday in the future. It's basically Fallout
most likely
in space. I don't know. The update is supposedly their biggest one since launch, and I think the two biggest features that I saw people talking about were 60 frames per second on Xbox Series X, and I think you can change the camera view in the conversations that you have with people and kind of customize that. The list was enormous of features, but those were the two I saw most talked about. So new update for Starfield if you wanted to get back into that game. Next one, they are closing the Xbox 360 storefront, but they're having a bunch of sales before they close it. So I'm going to read this quote. They said, quote, "To celebrate the legacy of the Xbox 360, we're working with our amazing publishing partners to bring you as many price reductions from our online store or from the Xbox 360 store on the console. We'll be updating this list with more games on June 18th and on July 16th, bringing you as many repriced games as possible before the end of July. These price reductions will remain in place for each game through the 360 store closing on July 29th, 2024. I'm glad they gave quite a bit of notice that, hey, this store is closing in 6 months or a year or whatever. And I think a lot of those games are very heavily discounted. Like, you want this game for $2, $3. So if you're still buying games on your Xbox 360, make sure you're aware of that store shutting down on July 29th. And I guess there's a lot of deals on there if you haven't already played everything, if that's your primary unit. Let's see. They also announced they're going to be rolling out a new feature. I think it comes out to their beta members first. I think they have some fancy term for their beta members, but it will let you download game updates in advance. So if like Sea of Thieves has a big update coming out next week, you can download that in advance. Then you can just play on launch. So that's kind of cool. And the last one I thought was just kind of silly. They made a Guess Who game for Game Pass games. So Guess Who was that board game where I have like these 20 guys in front of me and you have these 20 guys in front of you, and we're trying to guess like which one you've selected, and we like push them down if you were wrong or something. They made a cool physical version of it, but they're not actually selling a board game. It's just a digital thing, and you can, like, out of a big list of games that are on Game Pass, you can send like a clue or a question to someone else and they try to guess what you've been playing. So just a kind of silly thing over there. All right, last up in video game news, we've got a few updates on movies and TV shows from the industry. First up, home box office, also known as HBO, but I don't know if they want us to call them that anymore. Max has confirmed that The Last of Us Season 2 will be coming to Max in 2025. I think that the first season came out pretty early last year in 2023? Maybe like February. So I really hope that they can hit like early 2025. That would be sweet. They also released a couple screenshots. I guess in a movie they're not called screenshots. A couple images from production. So they got Joel standing in that very important spot in the dance hall, and Ellie holding a shotgun, if you want to see those couple pictures. So very much looking forward to that. I think that is, like I said earlier, one of the best stories ever told in video games. It is harrowing and violent and like hard to even watch at times, but if you got the stomach for it, it's incredible. And the HBO show does, like, they match the level of quality that they needed to for that. So excited for that one. The next two, maybe a little less excited for, but they're here too. Mortal Kombat 2 is coming to theaters on October 24th. Devin, did you watch Mortal Kombat,
bro? I did. Yeah, it was ridiculous.
You did? Was it?
I think I watched it twice actually.
Oh dang!
But I don't judge movies too harshly. If it'll keep me entertained and it keeps my eyes on the screen instead of my cell phone, then I consider the movie to be decent.
Mm-hmm.
And since it's based off of a game and I wanted to see the characters and go, oh, I know that guy from that game, it kept my attention. So it was worth a watch to me.
Okay. Yeah, I totally get that. Sometimes I'm down as well for a movie that's just silly fun. So anyways, if you like Mortal Kombat, look out for that. October 24th. And they mentioned it coming to IMAX. So you can see all the blood and guts on a huge screen. Amazon has also announced a new show after the success of Fallout, which I think they said was their second most watched show of all time, which I think is just behind Rings of Power. But the new show that they announced is a Tomb Raider show. So it'll be coming at some unknown time in the future to Prime. There is an actress.
Bring back Angelina Jolie.
I really liked the most recent one with, I can't remember her name.
Oh, I also did. That girl was very, very cute. She is. She's pretty. You can't say that you're married.
Now we can. It's no big deal. But yeah, I thought the movie was pretty solid. I was hoping they'd make a sequel, but it never really got there, which is a bummer. But Amazon has this other show. It's called Fleabag. I've never seen it, but it's been really popular for them, I believe. And the main actress on that show, I think, also wrote the show or produced it or something. And she is going to be writing and producing this Tomb Raider show. She was the same actress was also in The Last Indiana Jones, The Dial of Destiny, whatever. But if you want more Tomb Raider, you're going to get a show in probably 2 or 3 years. So there you go. All right. Last up, we got some board game news. We kind of covered the 4 board game announcements earlier, new things. There's not much here in this segment, but we got a couple things. Last week, Devin, we talked about that game that had the NFT cards. And
yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And Kickstarter said, not on our platform. You take that game off. And they said, no, we're not gonna. And then they did. They have relaunched the game on Kickstarter. I was just looking today and I was like, wait, that name looks familiar. It's called Wizards of the First, and they did relaunch without the NFTs, just like Kickstarter told them they had to. It looks like everything else about the game is about the same. They are really going after the heavy collectibleness of the cards. They show 5 or 6 different rarity levels of each card, I believe, that you can get, and then 5 or 6 different finishes of the card. It can be borderless or foil or all these things, and they still have that $8,000 pledge. It just seems very overpriced. If you want a starter deck, I think they're $30 each, and I don't know. Seems pricey. Doesn't look incredibly compelling to me, but if you want to check that out, I thought it was funny that they did relaunch it. So it is on Kickstarter. And then last up is Crowdfunding Corner. So these were the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games that I thought looked interesting in crowdfunding this week. First one, I've got to give a huge shout out to Crokinole. Is one of my very favorite games ever. I consider it kind of more of a bar game than a board game, but man, if you love darts or pool or anything like that, it is excellent. And the skill ceiling is incredibly high, so it's always fun to just keep playing and practicing. You get better and better and better. It's awesome. Crokinole's the best. Getting a nice board is very expensive, though. If you want a Tracy, which I think is kind of top of the line boards that they use in tournaments, they're $400 or $500. I have kind of a mid-tier board, is probably a couple $100. This company named Mayday Games, they have been around for a long time. They make card sleeves, and they maybe even made some games. They have for probably 6 to 8 years done this campaign where they make Crokinole boards, and they launch the campaign on crowdfunding and basically make them in bulk so that you can get a good deal. And man, it is a good deal. You can get a Crokinole board for $100, $99. And then if you're in the United States, I think the shipping is $39. If you live in Utah, you can pick it up from their office or warehouse or whatever for $5. So in theory, if you lived in Utah, you can get a board, and I think they come with discs for $104, maybe tax, but they also sell cases for the boards and some other add-ons and stuff, but that is a screaming deal for a really solid board. If you bought a $99 Crokinole board on Amazon, first off, it would not be round. It would be octagon shaped or hexagon shaped, which is just the worst, and it would be very low quality. So I would highly recommend doing this. They've made thousands and thousands of boards. This is their 8th Kickstarter campaign for Crokinole boards. And I think on the page they say how many they've made. They've made tons. I think this campaign already has like 2,000 something backers. So they're going to be making like at least 2,000 more boards. It's a reputable company. It's a really amazing game. And this is really, I think, the only time of year that, because I think they launch this campaign about once a year, that you can get a board for like a steal. So check that out. I know Devin, I think, has good things to say about Crokinole as well.
I do, and I just looked at the new Mayday boards, and they're
very pretty, huh?
I know yours is mahogany, but that beechwood is looking clean.
Yeah, I do like the light board. Mine's not mahogany, but mine kind of has that mahogany color on it sure. But yeah, I think they have 2 wood types. Is it beechwood and walnut? I can't remember. But they're nice looking boards. There's like a dark one and a light one.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely check that out. The next game on my crowdfunding corner hot list is Regicide Legacy. Regicide came out a few years ago, probably 3 or 4 years ago, and it's a card game that you can play with just a standard deck of cards. And man, it was hot. It was like so popular. They also make like a special Regicide deck. It's still just regular deck of cards, but it has different artwork on it and stuff if you want to buy the special deck. But basically you use, I don't remember every rule. There's also a really great app implementation if you want to like try it on your phone or iPad. You use all the cards in the deck except for royalty, the jacks, the queens, and the kings. And you're trying to kill I think regicide. I think that is what that word means, to like kill the royalty. There's got to be a better word for that, but and it's an awesome game. It's tricky and tough. You can play in 15 minutes, and it's really great. This is a legacy mode that I believe is a campaign or a co-op game that you can play with others if you want. And so it comes in a much bigger box. And legacy games, how they generally work is you have different like segments of the campaign that you play. And if you win that segment, then you probably get rewarded with something. So you'll get to go back into the box and open some reward pack that has new stuff in it. And some legacy games get really crazy. Like, here's a new set of stickers. We need you to put this sticker on these cards. The next game you play will be different. Or rip up these 5 cards because they'll no longer be used. And things like that. So they kind of progress from the beginning to a different state at the end. And then the thing that I've never played a legacy game. I've always been turned off by like the idea of destroying components of my game. Ripping up cards is a pretty common one in games like that. Generally, if you want to replay a legacy game, you can play it forever in that end state with all the stickers and kind of the end game version. But if you ever wanted to start back over at the beginning, you have to buy a reset pack. You basically have to buy all the basic components again, the ones that were either ripped up or stickers put all over or whatever. And so that's why I haven't gotten to legacy games. I'm like, man, if I have to buy another box just to restart this game, I don't know. But Regicide's amazing, and if their track record is to be trusted, I hope that they can do a legacy game pretty well too. So check out that. And if you haven't played Regicide, get the app on your phone, get a deck of cards, get the rules for free on just Google Regicide rules. You'll find them. It's a good one. Next up, Around the World in 10 to 15 minutes. There are a lot of games like this on crowdfunding. It's basically a company that makes like a one-page roll and write game where you can print the page, and then you can write all over it, and then after the game's over, you can just throw it away, or you can laminate it. And you do you with your page, and bring your own pen, bring your own dice. This one I thought looked. I mean, there's so many of those. This one looks a lot higher quality than most of those that I see. It also doesn't have dice, which was interesting. You just make a decision each turn to go to a different area. And you can play with more than one person. I thought it looks really solid. It's one of those games where you get the game for $5. They'll send you the PDF files when the campaign's over. And I think for $8, you also get like 2 extra maps. I think around Europe in 10 to 15 minutes and around America in 10 to 15 minutes. So I thought that one looked good. There's another company that makes really high quality games in that vein, where like for $4 or $5 you get an awesome PDF game. That company is called Postmark Games. I have a few of theirs, and this one looks like it could be in their line. It looked pretty high quality to me, so check that one out. Next up is a game called Everbloom, and this one I thought the colorful like animal vibe was kind of fun. Kind of reminded me of something like Everdell, if you've played that, but different gameplay mechanisms. But basically, you choose a faction of animals. One of the factions is Devin's favorite animal, so I think he's in. There bats. Is a faction of bats. Yep.
And bumblebees. I like those bees. Too.
Yeah. So they kind of have some unique animals. You choose an animal, and then you're trying to like control. It has area control in it, so have the most of your pieces in certain areas to get points, and you're basically trying to get points like in most board games. But the artwork's really cool. I thought it looks pretty solid. So check that one out too if you like, kind of medium to medium lightweight games that have cool art. And then last one, I've heard about this one for a long time. I think it looks cool, has a cool idea. It's always seemed a little too expensive to me, and it might be too light for me nowadays. But I mean, I like a good light game every now and then. But this one's called Canvas, big box, and I think it has like a big box, like the name says. I think it's a big empty box that if you have Canvas, you can then fill the big empty box with all the expansions and everything from Canvas. And then you can also buy the Canvas-based game and any expansions in the campaign. Canvas is cool in that you're trying to make the most beautiful painting, I think. And that painting will be different playing cards that are transparent, that go inside a transparent sleeve. And so after you layer like 6 or whatever, 4, some number of cards in there, one card will have like a human shape on it. One card will have the kind of the background. And so you get to mix and match those different things to make your own painting. So it's kind of a cool, unique idea. So if you like Canvas, or if you have everything for Canvas and want a giant box to put it all in, then there's that Kickstarter campaign for you. All right, those were that's 5 actually. I said 6, but I meant 5. Those are my 5 crowdfunding picks this week. And just a final little reminder to take a look at Ice Unlimited. If you haven't, it's going to be done on GameFound next week, I believe. I talked about that one last week with the cool board where you dig down through the ice. But all right, that is board game and video game news. Devin, out of those 5 board games that I just showed you, which one looked most interesting to you? Was it the bats or was it Crokinole? I don't know.
Everbloom looked cool because of its art style. Crokinole's fun because it's just a physical skill game.
Yeah.
So those 2, yes.
Yeah, I thought those 2 would probably be the 2 most intriguing to you. All right, well, we are here at the end of the show. For our closing segment, we decided that the 2 of us would come to the end of this show with a question to ask the group being the 2 of us. So we'll do my question first, if that's all right. My question was, what is your favorite board game piece that you have played a game with? So the game might have sucked, but I had a cool piece, or the game was hopefully great and also had a good piece. But we've each come with 2. How about Devin? You do one of yours first, and then I'll do one. We can just kind of alternate.
I'm gonna be honest. I don't remember the game name. It had something to do with bees and pollen, and there's a little piece. He's got the pieces to show you.
I do. I'm gonna. Yep. So for the audio listeners, maybe hop onto YouTube. Just watch the last 10 minutes of this on YouTube as well if you want to see these pieces live. But this game is called Honey Buzz. It's a game with very cool art about being in the forest, but it's a pretty medium weight kind of economic game. You're trying to make the most money as possible by selling honey in the forest to these forest creatures. And the piece in this game that Devin loved when we played it, there's quite a few cool pieces in this game. A little hard to show on camera, but Oh, there we go. It's kind of coming through. Maybe my hand is glowing from the light, but
Oh
some
yeah.
cool meeples. You got your bee workers, and then the resources that you sell, I think, are nectar and pollen. And these pieces are kind of gummy, and man, they are fun to squeeze because they are squishy, but they're also firm. It's a weird kind of thing. And then they have these cool kind of harder
I want to eat it.
nectar pieces. I do remember you liking those from that game, so good choice, Devin.
Thanks.
All right, my first one is from a game called Skate Summer. And Skate Summer very much has very cool art and is very kind of inspired by like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. You try to do the coolest tricks without crashing. So it's a push your luck game. How many cards can I play without crashing my trick? And then you also skate around the town and try to get different things. And some of them are like the letters skater, which is exactly like Tony Hawk.
Yeah, identical.
Yeah, very solid game. I really like it. And in the game, every player has their own player board, and your player board is shaped like a skateboard. This is only part of it. You also put a little piece over here that just adds on. Then on every turn you add these cards here. It's hard to do this backwards with the cameras, but you add cards to the right side or the left side of the board, and the card, they will move your balance token here. So it's kind of like on Tony Hawk when you're doing a manual or a grind, you have to keep your balance in the center. Your balance gets too far to one side, you crash your trick. So you have to play as many cards as you can without crashing, keep your balance in the center. And it's a fun board to have like your own little skateboard deck that you're putting all your cards on. And there's some pieces that slot in there too and stuff. Fun game and a cool feeling, especially if you grew up playing Tony Hawk like we definitely did. So that's a good one. Really like Skate Summer.
We're up to me. It's my turn.
It is. Do you remember the name of this game?
No, absolutely not.
That's okay.
Truck Timer.
We played this one a long time ago. It's a really fun 2-player game. Doesn't get a lot of love, I feel like. It's called Kiro. And very similar kind of Mad Max vibes in this game. Both players kind of take control of this, kind of faction of people living out in the post-apocalypse in the sand. And you have to do different actions on your turn. And those actions are powered by the fuel in your faction's tanker truck. And the game comes with 2 tanker trucks. And here is one. The tanker truck is also a giant sand timer. So on your turn, you will flip the sand timer up and then, as quickly as you can, start rolling dice to be able to do those actions. And when you flip the timer up, it's a sand timer, so the fuel is being used out of your timer when you're rolling the dice. And then you can do certain actions later to like get some of your fuel back. And yeah, I think those are really fun. They kind of keeps
it's such
track.
A sweet piece.
Yeah, of your fuel. And I'm assuming if you were artistic, like I'm not, you could paint that really cool and make them look cool. But mine are just brown and gray plastic. But even with that, very fun game. Really like Kiro. I also found a copy of Kiro online for like $4. So if you haven't played Kiro, find it. You can get it.
Links in the bio.
Oh yeah, and it's one of the on our Super Game Brothers channel and my Gaming Top Down channel. We're doing a shared giveaway once a month, and it will be one of the giveaway games. I have an extra copy. It may or may not be that $4 copy I just mentioned. But it's brand new and shrink, All right, last one. I've only played this game once. I'm still up in the air on how much I love the game. It's called Oak. And in Oak, you play as these different groups in the forest. The box is kind of big, so it doesn't fit in the screen super well. But you play as these different groups of people. Kind of, worshipping this giant oak tree. And trying to build up your people better than the other players. And you have these workers, worker pieces. Here's one, and this is just a pretty basic Bob the worker. But during the game, you can upgrade your workers, which isn't a very new thing. There's a lot of games that let you upgrade your workers. But when you upgrade your workers in this game, I think there are 8 different classes you can upgrade them to. And when you do so, you put these little costumes on them. So this guy's got a robe on, and the robed guy, I don't remember his name or what he does, but something special. This one is the best one in the game. He gets all the abilities of all the others. He's like a shaman or something. And I think there are 8 of these. So this one has a little satchel, so he can carry more. There's 8 of these little things. One of them is a bunch of crows that like sit here on his head. How does that one go on? Oh, it's not on his head. It's on his staff. So he's got some crows hanging out with him that do something special. Anyways, it's a fun feeling to get to upgrade your piece by placing something cool on them, and then they look different and get to do different things than what everybody else is doing. So
like a Pokemon evolution.
Yeah. Yep. I evolved right to Charizard. Yeah, I really like those pieces. I love it when there are so many games you could pick for this that were like $200 games, because in a game that expensive, they can just afford like cooler pieces. Like we've talked about Fractured Sky on this show quite a few times, and that one's awesome with the cool magnets. That like the magnet hides like your troop value underneath the ship and stuff. But I really like it when a game can be like resourceful and stay at like a budget price. The $40 game that has cool resources, even though it doesn't have to be like huge miniatures. And I mean, we talked about Sand earlier. I think that Sand's player boards are super awesome because you get to track everything about your sandworm and keep track of it here. And then all of those, it's a double layer board, so all of the cubes slot in those spots, so they can't really be knocked off. So yeah, lots of games can do really cool things with not a lot, but I do think those 4 we just mentioned are pretty unique ones though. So cool. All right, that was my question. Favorite board game piece. Okay, Devin, what was your question of the day?
My question of the day was, what is your favorite boss entrance in a video game?
This is a tough one. Do you want to go first, or you want me to go first?
I'll name one of mine.
Okay.
This is from a game I recently played called Lies of P. The boss entrance was the Puppet King. I believe it is a boss that most people got stuck on for a long time. Somehow we got lucky and clapped that fool. But
I don't think I got to the Puppet King. Remind me what he looked like.
So you open these 2 massive doors. It's slow motion. You enter the stage. It's like a whole opera house with like a play stage. And these little puppets are like putting each other back together and bringing each other back to life. And it gives you like this whole scene of them. And you're like, okay, I'm going to have to fight these 2. No, you're not. Because all of a sudden a massive 30-foot tall puppet just falls right in front of your face. Lands right in front of you. And those 2 are just out of the picture now. So it throws you off. Like, it's super deceiving. And the giant puppet tries to actually pick you up. He lowers his hand to you, but your character has such an ego that he slaps the boss's hand. The boss is like, all right, flips his head around, and all of a sudden he's angry, and then you just go at it. I thought that was a cool boss fight.
Okay. Oh, it sounds like a cool one. I must have missed that part in the stream, and I don't think I've gotten quite that far in Lies of P. Really awesome game, though.
It is.
Really like it. I also thought of Souls-like bosses a lot. I mean, they have some really awesome boss entrances. The ones that stuck the most in my head, I think, are from Sekiro, though. Man, some great boss entrances.
Ooh, that is true.
And it's really hard to pick. Like, even the first boss, the guy on the horse, I feel like that's a really cool like scene when he like pops up. I think that I try not to say 2, but I'm probably gonna say 2. We gotta go with the gorilla, even though it's like a mid fight entrance. When you think the gorilla's dead, and then he comes back to life. Like,
Oh,
I don't know if
that
that counts as
30
an
minutes
entrance.
of hand sweating, and you're like, I finally
it's a
beat
hard
him.
fight.
He said, not today.
But I think, at least visually, as far as how cool the fight looked, I think my favorite fight in that game is with the dragon on that big open field where he's like shooting the lightning at you.
And you're vaulting between like the sticks.
Yeah.
I never beat that boss. That's where I got stuck.
Oh, really? I even beat that boss. Wow, that makes me feel good. I think if you tried it a few more times, you would. It wasn't an incredibly difficult one compared to some of the others, but what a cool looking fight, though. You're just like zipping all over the place. The area is like a huge, wide open space, and right before the fight starts, it like does this. A lot of their From Software's boss fights start like this, where they'll have some cool scene, and then it like ends with your character like in this shot with the enemy like behind him, and they stand still for like 5 seconds before the camera fades to black, and then you start the fight. And there's an awesome shot. I actually took a screenshot on my PlayStation and made it my like PlayStation profile like background for a while. Really cool moment where the dragon's like flying up behind your character, and the dragon also has this huge freaking sword that he's holding. Very cool fight. I thought that was the coolest looking one, at least in that game, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I like it. I don't know why. I really like it when a boss fight has like a huge open space. I don't know. It feels like
that reminds me of that weird looking spider in Bloodborne.
Yeah, what was his name? Roth?
Rom?
Nope. Rom, that was it.
Is it Rom?
Rom, the vacuous spider.
Yeah, you can just run everywhere and the whole ground's like white water or something.
That's another great one. Or don't you have to just like jump off that little cliff?
Yeah.
To get to the fight? Yeah, that's a great one. They know how to like get you into a great boss fight for sure.
Yeah, speaking of great boss fights, my number 2 is from Software. In Elden Ring, there's a little area that's very windy. It's like a tornado. I don't remember what they call it, but it's like a separate section on the map. And you go there, and there's this area you like lay on the ground in like just a cement rectangle, and all of a sudden it just prompts a boss fight. And you go to this massive arena, and this 2-headed dragon called Dragon Lord Placid something. I don't know. He comes down, and he's just full of electricity and full of hate towards you. And that fight was one of the coolest boss fights I've ever had. Even if the entrance wasn't the coolest entrance ever, I had to mention it because it was such a cool boss fight. Like, it didn't look like a boss fight, but the game just threw you in one because you interacted with the ground. It was weird.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't get quite far enough in that game to get to that boss fight, but I do remember watching you do that one. Super cool fight. I think in my playthrough I got to that windy like area where all the like debris is floating around, like you said, kind of in a tornado kind of vibe. I got there a couple times, but it just seemed like a bunch of dead ends, and there wasn't anything like super exciting there. And so I think that is kind of what escalates that boss fight. Is you think this is kind of a boring, dumb area, but then you try this like weird secret thing, and then bloop, you're like in this crazy boss fight. Yeah, that's a cool one. Yeah, I had a couple, and I don't know what one to do.
I've got one more if you want to say 3.
Okay, let's do 3. Okay, my second one is from a game we've talked about on the show a couple times, and I don't want to spoil too much, so I'll just say his name, or its name. There's an area in The Last of Us Part 2 when you know something is down in this creepy basement with you, but you don't know what it is, and you like keep hearing it, and there's other like little clickers and stuff, and then you think you're just about to get out of this like dark creepy area. It's like this maybe hour of the game where it kind of turns more horror than it usually is, and right when you think you're about to get out, the Rat King shows up, and that was a pretty cool entrance. I thought that fight's pretty tough actually, because he like splits into a couple of enemies, and but super disgusting boss. Like really the first time they went like super hardcore with like how gross can we make this infection seem. And that moment was scary and pretty memorable for me.
I feel like I remember playing that as well. I think if I'm thinking of the right place, but yes. All right. Number 3 for me is another From Software game, of course, from my favorite game of all time, which is slowly maybe not becoming my favorite game because I'm playing so many other great games. But from Bloodborne, there's a boss called Murgo's Wet Nurse. You end up like scaling like this whole area. You're trying to like get upwards. There's spiders, scary enemies, weird stuff. The whole game's weird and gothic, and it's amazing. And you get to the top of a building thing, and it's just a small arena, and there's a little old-fashioned stroller, and you're just hearing a baby crying. You're like, oh, shoot. What's the baby going to do? And then once again, just like the Puppet King boss, this massive cloaked crow with like 6 arms and way long swords lands over that baby like its protector. And that boss was difficult to kill. There was a part in that boss fight where it would go all black and she's just coming at you from different angles. And so that boss fight is very memorable to me. But there's so many bosses in that game that are like Abriatus. Do you remember Abriatus? That weird like space squid.
Yeah.
Beautiful, weird, massive ball-headed boss in the water.
The one that I remember the most, I think it's just because of how loud the boss was. It was like screaming at you the whole time. Is Vicar Amelia, which is probably only like the 3rd or 4th boss
in the
church at the top of the hill or whatever. But that's the one that always comes to mind. It's like a big wolf woman.
Yeah, that boss is so odd. It really is. The cleric beast was also super loud, and the blood-starved beast, the one that walks on all 4s.
Yeah, with like the blue lightning kind of. Yeah.
Oh no, that one's a dark beast Parl.
Oh, you're right. Yep.
The other one's very small.
The blood-starved beast.
I'd have to show you. Yeah.
Yeah. You're right. You're right. I think I had it mixed up. You know that game better than I do. I believe.
Oh my gosh, that game is so good.
Yeah, it's a cool one. I was trying to think. Man, really tough. I think that my last favorite boss entrance has got to be the couple times you fight and see Sigma in Mega Man X. So the really strong opening. You do that first level, running on the kind of the freeway, and then kind of just get destroyed by Sigma before. Is it Zero shows up and helps you? Can't remember all their names. X and Zero, the red one with the blonde, yeah. And I always thought Sigma was such a cool boss. There, he's like the little purple robot dude. And then after you do beat all of the robot masters, you fight him again. And I think in that one you have to save. No, you like show up and save Zero from Sigma, and then Zero dies, and you get Zero's power. And then you have to go and fight him one more time, I think. But anyways, anytime Sigma popped up during Mega Man X, I remember thinking as like a 5-year-old, like, this is the coolest boss fight I've ever seen. So that one's always really memorable to me. There's lots of good bosses in those 2D games back then. Even a lot of the Castlevania bosses that were super, super awesome. Even just the bat in the first Castlevania, like what a great boss, just kind of pops up behind the curtain and then starts diving at you.
Like think of just Donkey Kong bosses. You've got massive rats or flamingos, weird pirate birds. You fight like a TNT barrel at one point as a boss, or something.
Yeah, that series has really good ones. Donkey Kong Country 2 has some really awesome boss fights. At the end of Donkey Kong Country 2, I remember when you finally get up into King K. Rool's what is that, a blimp, I guess? And he's got Donkey Kong hanging there, like all tied up. That's such a cool boss fight as well. That's a pretty tough one.
Yeah, you got the spinning cannonballs coming at you.
Yeah, and they like kind of loop back around. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that's a hard one. Yeah, lots of cool boss fights from Days What are those? Days Long Past? I almost said Days Yonder, but that's not the right. From Days Gone. Just looping back to when we were talking about Days Gone at the beginning of the show. Well, yeah, write in, please. We'd love to hear what your favorite boss entrance is. I'm sure that we're forgetting about millions, thousands, whatever the number is. And we could have probably said 10 more that are on my mind right now. So, and then let me know what your favorite board game piece is. I'm sure I forgot about some of those too. I was looking back at my shelf back there and I was like, ooh, Cryo has really awesome drones. And ooh, this game has like Wingspan has really cool components. And Apiary has, I'm just looking at the games on my screen right here, but Heat has a really cool cars. And Abyss has those wonderful pearls. So there's so many games, and we only went over 4 or 5. So yeah, comment below. We'd love to hear your input. What are your favorite games, favorite boss fights, favorite pieces? All right, well, that is going to do it for our show today. This was Super Game Brothers episode 7. Thanks so much for listening. Really appreciate you. And just as the last plug today, make sure you follow us on Patreon. It's totally free to follow us over there. And we'd really appreciate if you could subscribe to our YouTube channel, like and comment on our posts over there. We try to just have them be positive and a good time. So we'd really appreciate if you could do that for us. That would be super helpful as we're trying to get this out to more people. Helps us a lot. Devin, anything else planned for you this evening? Is it right to bed?
I'm going right to bed. All over? I gotta wake up at 5 to stream. I'm probably gonna get a snack though because I can't stop eating.
Me too.
Yep, just sleeping today.
Cool. I can't decide. I might play some more Animal Well. We'll see. Gotta get this video edited first, but we'll figure that out. All right. Well, thanks so much, everyone, for watching and listening, and we will see you on the next one. Bye.